Are traveling somewhere out of town. Good morning. Let's get ready to begin today's lesson. I think it'll be appropriate today to begin by talking about the natural feelings versus the hidden feelings. Let me explain. We all have things that we naturally like. Then we have things that we have to develop a taste for it. Some of these tastes buds only come to us when we're a little bit older. Some of them we have when we're very young. For example, if somebody asks you, are you a wine connoisseur? What would you say? I haven't developed a taste for it, maybe. Or you may say, yes, I am, right? How long have you been enjoying wines? Most probably it was not when you were 8 or 10 years old. Hopefully not. Hopefully not even when probably not even when you were 20. More as we age, we begin to develop a liking towards the finer things in life. Now, does that mean that we did not have this enjoyment for these items before we started to appreciate these fine delicacies? Or is it just as we age, we begin to appreciate things that already were within us from a very young age? So we can call it innate love versus revealed love, or hidden likings versus revealed likings, meaning to say that which is already the natural things that we like versus the things that we have to develop a liking for. So nobody has to teach you to like potato chips. We like chocolate cake no matter what. You see a piece of a chocolate cake or a good cupcake, you're going to like it. Versus if you see a plate of carrots or peas, maybe you will, maybe you don't. If you do like it, you probably have to taste it first and only see if you do like it. And you probably didn't like it at first. You have to convince yourself that it's good because it's healthy and it's nutritious. And then you begin to develop a liking for this type of food, which is why our natural calling is to like junk food, we'll call it. The unnatural thing is to like healthy food. And so in order for us to live a healthy life, we have to take the time to think about, I don't know, meditate is a strong word, but to contemplate over how important and desirable and also maybe delicious this healthy food is. And then we begin to develop a liking for it, to the extent that if you're given a choice of an apple and a chocolate cake, there's a good chance by now you've developed such a liking for the apple, you're going to choose the healthy choice and not the unhealthy choice. Doesn't mean you don't like the unhealthy choice, but you like the healthy choice. In fact, personally, when I was a kid, I never ate salads. Now, I go to a restaurant, I'm going to order a salad. I like a salad. It's enjoyable. What has changed? So a few things changed. Your taste buds change, your natural taste buds, but also you become older and more mature and begin to think about the benefits of it to the extent that now you actually like it better. You don't have to convince yourself anymore. Maybe years ago you had to convince yourself to like it, but now this is actually much better and you enjoy it more. So this basically is the difference between the natural self and your subconscious self or your deeper self. Naturally, you do certain things. You can teach yourself then to do other things. Does that mean that you were not able to do it beforehand? No, you were always able to do it. But now you brought out a hidden talent or a hidden something that was already there. Now you revealed it to a whole new level. Okay. So that which is natural comes to us easy. That which is natural doesn't take long to start. We can just decide and do it right away. That which is natural to us does not leave a deep mark. It comes and goes. Okay. And that which is natural is what the Kabbalists call the quick fix or the short path. So let's say something breaks and you want to fix it. So you do the quick fix and you put a piece of tape on it and now it sticks together. Or let's say your glasses breaks and you tape it up. You see people, I'm sure you've seen people with tape on their glasses. That's the quick fix. It's not a long-lasting fix. That's the natural thing. It broke, you tape it together. But if you want to have something that's going to last longer, you need to take the time maybe to find the screw or to solder it or whatever it needs to make it really stick together. So the natural way, the first reactive way to do it is to do it the quick, easy, natural way. But the problem with that is it doesn't last. And when we do something, we want it to last. We're not looking, especially now, when we're younger, we tend to be much more, I guess we'll call it short fused. Okay, when we're younger, we want things fast, immediate, regardless of the big picture results. But when we're older, we see life as a much bigger picture. We get a job, and the job lasts for much longer. It's not just a quick thing that place that I'm working at, or I'm just, have a temporary job. But I'm thinking of it more long term. A career, I can make a life for myself, I can provide for my family. So therefore, the enjoyment is not there right away, but there's more long-term enjoyment because I'm going to be developing this position or this type of work or this type of philosophy that's going to last for much longer. And when it lasts for much longer, it takes longer to develop, but it also sits and retains its value for much longer. We human beings have these two states of existence. We have the natural state of existence, and we have the deeper state of existence, the deeper consciousness. We human beings tend to begin our journey or our day or our life with tapping into the natural callings, right? But then when we get older, let's say a simple example. You go to school. I know many people that have gone to school, gone to college, and began a career. And then 5 years later, they changed careers. What happened? Their natural calling was they fought for this first career, but then they started to think deeper into their life and try to understand who they truly are. And they realized, actually, I may not be an attorney. I'm more someone that fits the medical field, or more someone that fits a social worker or whatever the job is. The point is that what I thought I was is only the revealed part, the outer part, but that's not what I truly am. This is all by way of introduction to explain how our relationship and how our connection to our Creator, our devotion to God expresses itself. Does it express itself only in the natural way? Or does it also express itself by me revealing and tapping into a deeper consciousness that I did not realize that I had? What is the benefit of tapping into a deeper talent or aspect of my existence? It's that it takes time to develop, and sometimes it's also hard to find, but it's there. It's there deep down inside of me. And when I do reveal it, when I do tap into it, it actually lasts much longer. Okay. And this is called the long way, or the long, short way. It's the longer way, but it's really the shorter way, because really I'm getting to my destination. When we do things because I feel like doing it, because it makes sense to me immediately, or because that's my natural calling, we are almost behaving like an animal. Because animals also live their life completely being dictated by their natural instincts. No thought goes into an animal about what they are going to do today. They wake up in the morning and they follow the natural instincts. I'm going to hunt. I'm going to eat. I need this amount of food for me, this amount for my offsprings, or for my tent or home that I'm building, or nest that I'm building. This is how many items I need. This is how many hours it's going to take me. And that's it. That's their natural calling. And they probably are not even as sophisticated I just made them sound. But that's an animal. When we wake up in the morning and just follow our natural instincts, we are behaving just like the animals. But we're humans. We're not animals. We're a completely different species, completely function on a different level. So if that's the case, then what am I, or how am I? So I have to then recognize that there must be something more to me than just my natural calling. And that must be something hidden deep inside of me. And if that's the case, how can I find what's hidden deep inside of me? How can I tap into that subconscious existence, or love, or desire, or appreciation? And when I do tap into it, how do I hold on to it that it lasts, right? How do I develop it in such a way that it sits and it continues to grow within me? So the animal instinct would be compared to a I guess let's say like this. We have two principles in Kabbalistic teachings. The first one is that when God began to create the world, he created it in a way of Helem vehester. He hid himself in the world. Okay? Hela means God is hiding, hidden in the world. In fact, the word world has the same numerical value as hidden. It seems like a natural world, but it's really not natural at all. It's supernatural. It is just being hidden by the nature, or this supernatural is being hidden by the nature. Okay? So God is found then within everything, but we don't see God inside of everything. That's one principle, Helem. There's another principle called Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum means that when God wanted to create the world, God contracted his light. Okay? For example, if you have a sun shining on your property, okay? But now you build a room on that property. Now, will the sun shine in the place where you just built that room? The answer is no, right? Because you covered over that space, and now the sun can't get to that space. Now, when you're standing in that space, okay, do you see the light? No, it's been covered over by the walls. What happens if you make a window in that wall? Now the sun is going to shine through that window. Is the sun shining through that window the same way it is shining on the rest of your property outside of that room? It's the same intensity, but not the same, it's not spread out the same way like it is on the outside, because the light has been contracted just to that window. So the light can only come in through that window. So that window is called contraction or tzimtzum. Okay, you took that vast light and you made it smaller to just come in through that hole. Okay, that's called tzimtzum. There's all this light, but now we brought all the light just into that little space. There's still light all over the place. There's still a lot of light. But in this room, I took all that light from the outside and pulled it through just this one window. Yeah? Now, what happens if I put a shade over the window or a screen over the window? The light is still coming through that shade, but is it coming in with the same intensity? No. That screen that I put in is now filtering the light that is coming through. That is called, one second, Vicky. That is called the light is being hidden from you. The intense light is being hidden. You're still getting it, but now with equal amount of intensity. Okay, go ahead, Vicky. Yeah.
But it seems to me when you say that the light has contracted to come in and all of it's going in through the window, I don't see how that is. To me, the light outside is still all there in its entirety. It's just a portion, not all of it, just a portion of it is coming through into that small space through the window. But the rest of it is existing. It's in existence in its fullness nonetheless.
Excellent, 100%. So it is only the light from our perspective while we're standing in the room that it seems like the light has become smaller, right? It shrunk from what it really was. But as you say, in reality, though, the light is equally as strong. So when God made the world, all he did was took all this immense light and put it through this little window, made this world, and from the world, you have that window to allow the light to come in. God is still infinite, right? God in its purest sense is infinite. Within us, the way we see God as limited in this world. But the light is not limited. Light is still infinite. That's one step. The other step is that the light that's coming through is not as intense either. It is a hidden light. It's coming through screens or shades. So by the time it comes to us, it seems much less intense, much less deep, even perhaps less sophisticated. Why? Very simple. Because if God were to give us the light in its full intensity, the way it is in the infinite light, we wouldn't be able to survive. It'd be too strong for us, too great for us. So God does a justice for us by contracting this light and minimizing the intensity through this shade so we can continue to survive. Not only survive, we can also continue to use the light and connect to God to reveal that which is already here. So when we see an item that seems to be unholy, we can reveal the holiness that's inside of it. It's only hidden inside of it, but it's not void of it. It may just be a thick shade, but it's not completely gone. There's a little bit there. We just have to open the shade and let the light shine through. Yeah, Vicky?
So we're not talking about light, actually. We're talking about God's essence. We're talking about God's energy. We're talking about everything that God is, which of course we can't even comprehend. So when we say that we couldn't handle everything, we're talking about to have God himself, whatever that really is, totally revealed to us. That's what would be too much for us to handle. Just like when, when everyone was at Sinai, they like fell over. It was too much. They couldn't handle the power of what Hashem really is. Is that what we're saying?
That's exactly right. So when the Kabbalists, so when I'm using the Kabbalist terms of light, it doesn't mean literally light. It's talking about God's energy and God's power that is within the creation. So let's take, for example, you have a bag of nuts, okay? Delicious nuts. Now, on the back of this bag, it says that it contains these fatty foods or sodium or carbs or whatever. Now, when I take out the nut, I don't see any carbs. I don't see carbs, right? I don't see the vitamins that it has. I don't see the nutritional facts. All I see is a nut, right? But a scientist can take that nut and reveal the nutritional facts that are hidden within that nut. They don't see a nut. They dissect that nut and reveal the oils, the sugar or fat or whatever is in that particular food item, right? So when we see the world, always sees the world. But if we take a look at the world a little bit deeper and we start to contemplate the world that we live in, we actually see so much more than just the world. We see hidden spiritual juices that are flowing out of it, giving us the opportunity to tap into it and to utilize it for a holy purpose, to elevate it, to be inspired as a result of it. So therefore, when we take a physical object and we understand that there's an element of holiness inside of it, and we use that physical object to do something good with it, we are then ultimately fulfilling the purpose of why the physical object is created or exists in this world. Does that make sense? This is all by analogy to understand ourselves. The same thing is also with us. We have inside of us a hidden aspect that is deeply rooted within the recesses of our being. Most of the time, we only utilize our revealed potential and our revealed talents, when in reality, we are gifted with immense amount of more talent and more capabilities that we are not tapping into. And this is what we are talking about today. How can we dig deep inside of us, reveal that which is hidden inside of us, then not only will we then be able to utilize so much more of our gifted energies that God gave us and not let it sit dormant, but more importantly, when we do that, we are going to be able to create a lasting impression and a lasting existence that will carry us for much longer. Because if we only tap into our natural resources, they come and go. Like I said, it's a quick fix. But if we want something to be meaningful and lasting, we have to really not be content with our revealed self. We have to dig deeper in. For example, gave earlier the food example, but let's take a relationship example, okay? If we like somebody, we like them. It may just be an external thing that makes us like them. But if we dig deeper and we find it's actually so much more than just that outside, that external aspect of that person. And now, when the relationship grows, it is actually based more upon the internal appreciation than the external appreciation that was beforehand. This is how our relationship with God begins to develop. It starts off by being a perhaps superficial, external, natural relationship that we have with God. You created me, I thank you for that. But when we contemplate over the greatness of God and who God is, what God gives to me, I gain a much deeper appreciation. And therefore, the love that I have for God goes beyond anything else. If you develop a liking for your job, for example, okay? Now, of course, we need the external part. You still need to get paid. But when you wake up in the morning, you're not thinking about anymore the paycheck. You're thinking about the thing that you are doing and what you are accomplishing by showing up to work, because you so value the work that you're doing. It started off as a paycheck. In fact, you had a few offers and you went with the higher pay. Or maybe you're already past that money stage and you went for the more fulfilling option because the money was less significant to you, more the appreciation or the feeling, deeper accomplishment meant much more to you. This is what we're talking about when we relate to God. Our relationship with God is not about our external factors. It's about our internal relationship, our internal, deep-rooted, long-lasting bond that we are creating with God. And we do this by what God tells us how we could accomplish this, not by what I think is best to create that relationship, but what God tells me he wants in that relationship. Just like a human relationship, too often we decide what the other person wants, but really we have to know what the other person wants and give them what they want. So, right? If I like a steak and a beer, which I don't particularly like, but if I would like a steak and a beer, I liked it, and I would say to my wife, here's a steak and a beer, she'll look at me like I'm crazy. That's what I like. That's not necessarily what she likes. Maybe she likes flowers and chocolate. Right? I'm not saying she likes it either, but I'm just bringing out this idea that I have to give her what she likes, not what I like. And what does she like? What she tells me she likes. God tells me what he likes. We do what God wants us to do. And God gives us these tools. He gives us the tools and he calls it a body and a soul. So the body is the nut. The soul is maybe the nutritional factor or the energy factor that's inside of that nut, right? That cashew. When we begin doing a mitzvah, we use our body. But what we're doing when we're using our body, when we're saying our prayers, we are then pulling along with it our soul. And as we pull the soul along, the soul gets caught up in that excitement. And 5 minutes into the prayers, or 5 minutes into helping that other person, 5 minutes after doing that physical act, now our soul is pulling our body. We say, I gotta finish this. I gotta finish this. The body's saying, no, I'm tired. I don't want to do it anymore. But the soul is saying, no, let's keep it going. Let's keep going. We can get it done. But the body's saying, I'm done. I already did it for 5 minutes. The soul says, yeah, but there's another 20 minutes of work we got to do. right? So it started off with the body, but it ends off with the soul. We're able to tap into our deep resources. And that's what he's saying, very simple. We have the natural calling and we have the inner calling, the deep contemplative thing. But we need to take the time to understand that relationship. And this brings us to what we mentioned earlier, to such an important idea. And that is that very often human beings, especially in today's society, in today's educational system, kids are taught that human beings are simply a more sophisticated animal. There's animals, and a person may be a more sophisticated animal. What we're saying now is no, we are completely different. True, we both have bodies, and maybe the human body is more sophisticated than the animal body, but the human being has a soul that is incomparable to that of the animal. It's not that we are a little bit more smarter, a little better. You can't even compare the drive. What does that mean? Animals follow its natural instincts. Human beings make choices. That's the difference. If we don't make a choice, then we're just like an animal following our natural instincts. But the moment we make a choice, a conscious choice, now we completely took ourselves away from that same category. We're a completely different being. God created the world using 4 general elements. Kabbalists call this domem. Domem means the inanimate. D-O-M-E-M, domem. The inanimate, rocks, stones, sand. Then you have tzomeach, T-Z-O-M-E-A-C-H, maybe, tzomeach, something like that, which means the vegetative state. The inanimate was created, put there, and it stays there forever until somebody comes and moves it. Or God comes and moves it, shakes up the earth, and things move, right? But by itself, it cannot move. A rock cannot pick itself up from one place and move to another place. Sand cannot move, nothing. Unless, again, the water comes and pushes it away, but on its own, its natural state is to stay in one place. The vegetative state also stays in one place. However, it could grow up or to the side, but it's can't move. It can only stay where it is. It can expand, but it stays where it is. Then you have chai. Chai, C-H-A-I. Chai means life, but it's referring to living creatures, animals, bugs, birds, mammals. These things grow like vegetative, but they can also move. And then you have human beings, which, like the animals, can move, can grow. But a human being is called a midaber. Midaber, M-I-D-A-B-E-R, midaber, a talker, literally means a talker. But it is referring to a thinker, because when we think, we are speaking in our head. When you think, do you think with words or do you think with concepts? In other words, are you thinking letters in your head or are you just thinking ideas? But even those ideas, are there letters attached to it? More times than not, even when you're thinking, you're creating words. You're speaking it. You're speaking a different language. It's a mind language, but you're still speaking it. Okay? We're called speakers. Even when we're thinking, we're speakers because we're thinkers. We can make choices. Animals can't do that. So you have the first two, the 2 lower ones, inanimate and vegetative state. Those are natural life state beings. They were created, and that's what they are. You can go to the furthest place on earth, and you'll see vegetation growing. No one put a seed in the ground. This is just the way God made this natural world, and these things are growing. Then you have the next two stages, which is the animal kingdom called Chai and Medaber, the speakers, human beings, they are growing strengths. Koach Hatzomeach. They have the strength to grow. Human beings have an added aspect, and that is they have a spiritual life force in addition to the physical life force, the body life force that is similar to the inanimate, similar to the vegetative, similar to the animal. It also has a spiritual life force, which is called a neshama, a soul. Now, just to be clear, everything has a soul. Animals have a soul, vegetation has a soul, inanimate has a soul, but they each have a soul. This is very important to understand this. So we have to go back to the original analogy we gave a little bit earlier. Just like when you put up a screen, the light is still coming through that screen, but depending on how thick that screen is, that will cause how much light or determine how much light is coming through that screen. So too also, the world is created with the screen. A human being has less of a screen. In other words, we get more of the God's light, more of God's energy. Our soul gets more potent. An animal, a little bit less. The screen is a little bit thicker, so the light is not coming through as much. Vegetative, a little thicker, and inanimate, even thicker. Makes sense? They're all getting God's energy, but depending on the intensity. Okay, that's how thick the screen is, or that shade is that you made. People oftentimes build walls around themselves. Those walls are very detrimental because it doesn't let anything in. We've become emotionally stubborn. We're not letting anything into that wall. So what do we have to do to let that light in? We have to slowly make a little hole, drill a little hole into that wall. Eventually, we can make that hole into a window. And eventually, we can make it into a door. And as we go through life, we can break down those walls that we created, we built around us. And each time we break it down, we allow God to come in. So we have to dig deeper to find that. And that happens by doing actions, not only by thinking, by contemplating, but also by doing physical mitzvahs, which is what God said. He wants us to do a mitzvah. When we do a mitzvah, you know what it does to us? It pulls us to do another one. How many times have you been asked to do something for somebody and you went ahead and you didn't want to do it, but then you did it? And then you say, you know, this felt great. Let me do another act like this. When we do something good, when we tap into our deep recesses of who we are, we have the power to do it over and over again. And we want to do it again and do more. Similar to the example that is given of this poor guy. This poor man knocks on this rich person's house. Now, this rich person was in the middle of throwing a party. He's throwing a party because he had just purchased the most magnificent chandelier that was handmade from Swarovski crystals, imported from Italy, with the wiring from Africa, and all the most intricate craftsmanship from the most sophisticated places on earth, put together this gorgeous chandelier sitting in the center of this rich person's home. He invites all his friends to come and to see the beauty that he just purchased and just hung up in his house. And this poor man knocks on his door while he's throwing this party. He didn't have any time for this poor guy. The poor man, he asked the poor man, what does he want? He said, listen, he said, I have a sack here and I lost the string for the sack. Do you have any string for me to tie my sack so when I carry it around from town to town, I won't just open up and I wouldn't lose all my precious possessions that I have in this bag? The rich man said, you know, I don't have time. Why don't you just go up to the attic and look, see if you can find the string. So the poor guy goes up to the attic and he's looking around for string in this box and that box, pulling around sides. Finally, he sees a little string right in the middle of the attic floor. So he takes out a pocket knife and he cuts the string All of a sudden, downstairs is a big shatter, bang. What happened? Everyone comes running up. What's going on? They see, look, come upstairs. They see this poor guy found the string and he's tying up his little bag. He says, what happened? Why is everyone running upstairs? He says, oh my God, what did you do? He said, I took this little string. He said, that string was holding up the chandelier. You cut the string, the whole chandelier broke. He thought he took just one string, but that one string is attached to something so much more. You know, the guy that was arrested for stealing all these precious possessions. And so they arrested him. They said, you know, you're being held on all these accounts. He says, why? He says, because you stole these precious. He says, I didn't steal these precious possessions. All I stole was a little string. But attached to that string was a bag. Attached to that bag was a box. Attached to the box was a horse. Attached to the horse was a wagon full of all these precious possessions. And it goes like this in the reverse also. We think all we're doing is taking one little string, but that string is attached to a beautiful, handmade, handcrafted chandelier. When we do one mitzvah, we know it's attached to so much more. We are actually able to hold on and to tap into these immense, precious resources. One mitzvah pulls the other mitzvah, keeps on pulling the next mitzvah until we get all these precious mitzvahs. Because when we're doing one mitzvah, we get excited to do more. In other words, when we tap into our desire to like something or to do something that we didn't want to do, but we go ahead against our natural calling and we do it, it motivates us to keep on doing more. And when we realize it, we say, you know, this is not an isolated string, but this string is attached to something much more valuable. And when I take that string, I'm actually also taking those values that are with me. And I'm able to cleave and to connect to God in a way that I cannot do by just tapping into my natural resources. So one mitzvah connects us in a deep, personal, meaningful way to Hashem, exactly what Hashem wants us to do. With this, we finish today's lesson.
Thank you, Rabbi.